next 30 to 40 minutes, we would like to draw your attention. I'm not sure how extensively we'll be able to draw your attention, but the subject is little tough, and we don't know how do we put it across. As the anchor said, the subject is that how AI, ML, quantum computing is going to be the game changer in the data center world, right? I'm sure all of us are aware that the data center industry is kind of getting into momentum, especially for the last 10 years. Many hyperscalers from abroad come to India and starting up their high capacity data centers, high capacity compute for a while now. Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, and again Mumbai and Chennai are the cities where these people are kind of investing more and attracting the kind of demand and momentum. So various providers, various customers are kind of huge investment, and thanks for the government, because we are all getting a very good support from the government. Government is kind of very supportive, and Tamil Nadu is one of the states where they have derived the data center policy in the first phase among other 3 states in India. It's a good traction there and the support from the government. And we know the Indian data center capacity is close to 1 gigawatt of built and operated capacity as of now. And a massive construction is going on across Pan India, be it any cities, right? And the prediction is like this is going to double the capacity at least in next 1 or 2 years. So that means it is going to be at least 2 gigawatt of capacities by FY25 or FY26 mid. So that is a projection. So I'm kind of confident that with the kind of construction going in, because I am also one of the service providers. My fellow speaker Roopesh is also from the service provider, and we are all building high capacities across India, and we have large plans, right? Let's say if you look at we at STT, we have a vision to set up 1 gigawatt of data center by 2030, and by 2026 we are kind of eyeing about 300 megawatts. So that is the projection we have. So at least next year we are going to build about 50, and I'm sure Sify is going to build the same capacity. So between us we are going to build about 100 megawatt, right? It is really going good. For the last 4 or 5 years, the capacity and revenues is kind of going at the rate of 25% CAGR. That is also the business trend we are seeing. So of course there is a tandem, there is a momentum, right? And when AI coming in, so AI, ML, this kind of contributors, we really see that kind of contributors to the capacities, right? While we speak, let's say 10, 15 years back, cloud computing was a talk point, right? And cloud computing is reality now. Now AI, ML, while it is a talk point, but we really see the customers and the content cloud providers are really starting their data centers. So as we speak, there are customers, there are providers, they already set up or in a process of setting up their AI ready data centers. So as all of us, we are putting our infrastructure the next AI ready. So what the discussion point is that today we are going to discuss how this momentum is going to impact the data center building. Is it going to be the same pace it grows as we see in the last 2-3 years, or is it going to be a tremendous, or how it is going to impact? That is what we are going to discuss. And with me, Mr. Roopesh, he heads design, construction portfolio of Sify Technologies Limited, and Sundar sir, he is a Chief Technology Officer of IBM. So I'm sure we're going to have that kind of meaningful discussion. My humble request to all of you to be participative, but again, we are not interested to have a one-sided communication. Whenever it's required, of course, we have kept a question answer session at the end of the session. However, but any point of time, you can raise your hand, stop us, and ask questions, which will give kind of more interactive to the session, which is more interesting, right? So we wanted to be. Don't want to have a one-sided discussion at all. So that is my humble request to all of you. So please keep your questions in your mind and be ready to shoot, right? So with that, we'll start. Let me start with Roopesh. So what do you feel? Maybe you can just give a little bit of introduction about you and your company, what exactly you're going to do, and how these technologies are going to be the game changer, and what exactly the the differentiator you see the last 5 to 10 years, or maybe again when you talk about AI, it is very fast. Maybe next 10 years is too large a window, but you can talk about next 2 years or 4 years or 10 years. How do you see that?
Yeah, thanks, Sreejith. So, as Sreejith mentioned, I'm Roopesh. I lead the data center projects engineering at Sify. Mainly responsible for building all the new data centers which Sify is building. So, Sreejith, I was just remembering, when we worked together. So, we are talking about a 2 kilowatt racks, okay?
Right.
So, that was kind of a very good thing at that point of time. I'm saying about 25 years back. So, now we are talking about 200 kilowatt racks. So, that's a kind of a transition it happened in the last 25 years in this data center industry. So, data center has been, traveling along with the IT growth also. So it was actually, together. So whenever there is a demand for a high capacity, racks, so data center was immediately kind of able to, support that requirement very fast. Now I would say that it is even matured, the entire data center ecosystem that includes the OEMs and the data center service providers are kind of, maybe I would say a little ahead of the curve now, where they can support an immediate requirement. It can turn around a facility very quickly to, accept these kind of racks. So when I say in this journey, so I mentioned about the 2 kilowatt racks, and then over a period of time we have seen this cloud computing coming into a major buzzword, like how we are talking about AI and ML. Once upon a time, we are always talking about only cloud computing everywhere. And then it kind of grown to a high performance computing like an HPC kind of a things. Now we are talking about AI ML, which has a very high density and very special requirement for power and cooling. So that's a kind of infrastructure what we are talking about now. So when I say that the readiness point for a data center service provider, definitely it has been always challenging, but it's very interesting also because we definitely need to, support that ecosystem, because end of the day, the servers are manufactured for a particular usage, and definitely a service provider has to give power and cooling to that servers. So that is how this entire ecosystem is working. So I also mentioned about now the ecosystem is well matured, thanks to all the new technologies from various power and cooling OEMs. They have been very innovative in defining or deriving new products and technologies that can support this kind of a very dynamic growth in the power and cooling requirement by each of these servers. Look at the new kind of technologies what we are seeing, the liquid cooling. I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with that term now, because liquid cooling is kind of a buzzword now, which is now along with the AI ML, everybody is talking about that. So few years back, we were never kind of thought of bringing water into the racks, but now that is not the case. Now water is directly going to the chip itself. So that's a kind of a development or a growth that has happened in this computing and the data center system, where more and more, the racks are getting more and more denser and power hungry. Same time it is cooling hungry also. So that's a kind of development which I would say that it's happening. And I'm sure, even all of the DC service providers, they are all are kind of getting geared up to meet this requirement. This was the case 5 years back. 5 years back when, or 5 to 7 years back, when the hyperscalers suddenly came into India, that kind of triggered a big jump into the data center industry in India, because everybody was kind of quickly geared up to kind of support that kind of requirement, because it was a bit unknown for the data center service providers in India to handle that kind of, rack densities. I'm talking about 8 to 12 kilowatt, 7 years back. So that was kind of a sudden shift, what the DC service providers was thinking all those time. But then everybody quickly adapted that to that, and then they have been able to successfully, meet all those requirements. And there are many data centers are, which is handling these kind of workloads now. That will be the same case for this AML requirement which is coming up. But again, I would like to remind all of you that, it is again a very closed system because it starts from the user to the servers and to the service providers. It's a very closed system because everybody is involved in this particular chain or in this group actually, because the user has to derive or he has to decide what's the kind of workload he is going to have in the next, his growth plan. And then what's the kind of servers they need to kind of support these kind of loads. That's where this new age computing GPUs and all those things are coming to the place. And then they come to the service provider to see that, hey, I'm bringing a 100 kilowatt rack, can you call it? Then yes, we need to be ready for that. So that's a kind of an ecosystem which is being developed in parallel to the industry. So I would say that there are two ecosystems coexist. One is the user to service provider, and other one is the OEM to the service provider, because these two are actually complementing each other to kind of support these, the new age computing requirements.
Thanks, Roopesh. That's interesting. I think you touched upon the importance of ecosystem, right? So everything is kind of roll around the ecosystem where the user definitely play a vital role. So
exactly,
that's it. And then it comes to the providers. So you really touched upon the part of the physical infrastructure part of it and how it is kind of evolving, how the dynamism is changed with the hyperscalers coming into the picture, right? So let me ask Sundar sir. Sir, you're coming from the system integrator side of it, the OEM side of it, so mostly the system integrator side. So what do you feel when you look at the past, because IBM is a very old company, and you have seen the evolution starting from the very beginning, right? Especially the cloud computing for the last 10-15 years. Now, what do you feel? What do you see as this kind of technologies are coming into the game? AI, ML, or quantum computing, whatever it is. I'm sure you are working very closely with those kind of user groups to help to them to set up this kind of infrastructure. That is number one. While people like us, we provide the base infrastructure, you come on top of that and you provide this thing. And what do you see, how it is going to be the contributor, especially when it comes to the economy, Indian economy? This is going to be the game changer.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Just before going into that, I just want to introduce myself, Sundaragopal. I currently lead the Center of Excellence at IBM. Mostly I used to work in new age technology, first of its kind implementation, solutioning, and more closely working with a lot of industry verticals for the past few years. So let me deep dive into this context itself. As my co-speakers mentioned, cloud was a big paradigm a decade ago as it evolved. And now everything is cloud first kind of approach, what we see across customer. So what's next for us there, right? The emergence of AI ML, so as to say, again, when IoT started a decade ago, after which everything is trying to become a kind of a connected things, Internet of Things kind of, right? Slowly at the same pace, we also see the Industry 4.0, which is the foundational frameworks for every generation, right? Generation of the Industrial Revolution. We see Industry 4.0 also emerging, which is actually a convergence of the information technology with that of the operational technology. So specifically when we see industries, let it be manufacturing, steel, cement, automobile, you name an industry, there are two places within that. One is the operational technology space, where traditionally the IT didn't have much of relevance earlier. After Industry 4.0, we are trying to get more of IT into the OT space also. So by doing this, we are trying to unlock the data, what is residing on the OT. OT is actually the edge, near edge and far edge. which actually involves on the shop floor operations, etc.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. So, and where it is more about the OEM plays like Siemens ABB kind of switches, HMI, PLCs, SCADA coming in. So now what we see is like with Industry 4.0, we are unlocking the data. Now data streamlining happening to a kind of a data lake, right? So on top of which, we have a good use cases emerging. This is across industry what we are seeing. The trend is more about data analytics,
Right.
and then comes AI on top of it. And by leveraging AI, it actually opens a lot of doors of what the use case we were dare to be thinking a couple of decades ago are happening in reality also. Let it be on the predictive maintenance, predictive insights, what not kind of, this is not just on the shop floor, right from supply chain to the manufacturing execution systems, how these insights can be brought in for better planning and execution. So, so it's top down as well as bottom up. Due to this data unlocking, what we see, the trends are happening. Apart from that, from socially, we are all everywhere surrounded by AI. Just to trick you on that, if you see a simple use case, when we have last talked to a human person for any support, if we need, let it be on services side or even on an office, if we are getting into an issue. Earlier, we used to have some number which we pick up, and there will be a human who will be responding on the other end. But now things have changed. Everything is about chatbot or voice bot or IVR through which we interact with, and the system is intelligent enough to understand what we are trying to express and then give us some solution or remediation over it. And unless and until it's not resolved, finally it raises a ticket also for us. So this is one thing. And if you want to see the more advanced use cases where we interact with on an AI perspective, the Digi Yatra is one use case we can see. How seamless we were able to get into the airports, which is kind of a dream itself, which we might not have thought of in the last decade. Zero touch, nobody there to actually physically scrutinize things till the security, right? So, and it's a one ID which tracks your journey right from onboarding till the baggage checkout and the offboarding. That level of seamlessness has been brought in. This is through the serverless inferencing, which actually gets your biometrics faces and maps you and checks in. So this is one such AI use cases which are affecting us also. Many more examples like that we can say. The other key point from an industry perspective, what we have to see is edge. Edge is going to be the next thing. When I heard the 25% CAGR of growth that is happening, I'm not surprised itself. And what I think is it will further accelerate on the higher end as we go forward. Because more and more things happening from an IT perspective in the operational technology, we see huge opportunities for opening up the data, and as the data gets opened up, a lot of AI/ML ops comes into play, and obviously we require GPUs and quick go-to-market strategy, which the cloud providers can give us. So that is one area which is going to accelerate further, because there is not much has been disturbed so far on this space. And that's a good avenue for us to also concentrate. And these are all going to influence their bottom line, optimize the bottom line for the industries. So they are also showing keen interest on these kind of emerging use cases, what we are seeing. So that's pretty much about, yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think the interesting point is the industry 4.0. So that is an important point, because many of the organizations, including all of us, are trying to tune to that kind of 4.0 journey, right? That is where, and you touched up a really good example of Digi Yatra. So let's hope in Chennai it will start soon. Right, so far it is not started. It is not started, so it is a real struggle. But it's really, really wonderful. And again, I'm sure there will be lot of such independent or individual user experience is going to be created in the coming days, I'm sure. But one more question, sir, associated with that. How do you see this kind of technologies are now it is coming? But especially to Chennai, you know the Chennai geographical aspect of it. So how do you see it is going to impact specifically in Chennai? I thought of asking this question, you are sitting in Chennai.
Yeah. I mean, we all know Chennai is a automobile hub, right? So specifically on AI, there are various use cases. Of course, we cannot go to the nitty-gritty details of the use cases. Many of the manufacturers have already started. It's not just about the industry 4.0, even on industry 5.0, which deals with the robotic arms on the shop floor. There are few pickers for those kind of use cases also. So across what I see is automobile is reaping benefits, not just on the production factory floor perspective. It is also on the edge, that is the device edge which sits on the car, what we call as a car OS. There are certain AI ML that are needed for predictive insights. For example, ADAS, AD. Nowadays, it's a very common feature, it seems, in most of the car. Assisted driving, what we say. So actually, if you see these inputs, there is a CPU which sits inside the car and which does these kind of smart operations needed for the car. And more so, the user experience with the car has completely changed over the years, if you can see. With an app, you should be able to track how healthy are your component peripherals within your vehicle. What about your fuel efficiency? How about your driving efficiency? So a lot of behavioral pattern and insights we were able to unlock based on these technologies, what is sitting both at the car OS level as well as at the data center level, which ingest all this data to spit out these kind of behaviors. So per se automobile, they are spearheading on some of the business critical use cases. For example, HMI PLCs, which used to be hardware devices, one of the OEMs are even trying to virtualize it, right? So thereby being, that's exactly the crux of Industry 4.0. We bring more IT into the OT space, realize it. Of course, this is not for the existing plan, but for any new expansion, they are thinking of it. And most of the players, and we have new industries coming up. If I remember, there are defense corridor coming up in some southern belt, that's what I heard here. So a lot of industries are coming and more expansion, given the cloud footprints within the region with co-location will be a very big advantage for the cloud service provider as well as the consumer here.
So do you agree that this is going to be a big economic growth, Tamil Nadu as a state in terms of, okay, one is that economic side of it, it boosts the economy of the state. The second is that does it create that kind of opportunity for the infrastructure players like us? And it is also kind of, boost the requirement for people like you and the OEM side of it. How do you see that kind of growth impacting, into the economic side of it? Maybe a percentage rise. Let's say we talk about infrastructure at the rate of 25 kg, but if you look at this IT aspect, OT aspect, right? And this machine learning kind of thing. So what could be the kind of next 5-year revenue growth if you look at it?
Well, so how to put it in? So, of course, these are all just the projections. And this optimization is, what you are asking is holistic level, but I can split up into certain levels so that you can get some insights. For example, how AI is going to help us from a developer productivity angle for a customer, right? So, if I need to develop a project, if it is going to take 10 months, for example, Gen AI stepping into that space, generating 70% of code for me, or the code that is needed for me, which is 70% apt, right? So the time to market for a customer is getting reduced up to 70% by involving this. And this is going to influence his bottom line, right? So like this, each and every sphere of it, let's come to the day 2 operation part of it. AI is deeply involved nowadays into the SRE practices. What we call earlier, after AI, there are certain new jargons or terms or teams are being formed. Specifically from a governance angle, we see most of the enterprises are having strategic initiatives team which directly report to their C-level. Operation side, earlier what we say tower or something like that, now they call us a site reliability engineering, which they also involve heavy IOps, AI ops kind of, right? So everywhere, wherever it is getting involved, people are seeing the value that they are acquiring out of it. Net, so immediately go to market strategy. It's not that easy to build on premise.
Yeah, but end of the day, it is going to be a contributor. It's going to be a, economic growth as well, right?
Exactly.
So, good.
But yeah. So.
But Roopesh, what do you see? Let's say you are building the capacities across, right? So what is your plans for in Chennai? So and again, what kind of capacities are going to build, and what kind of contributor when you look at the pan-India level, and what this kind of quantum computing in your mind? So are you trying to really keep this technology in mind, or how do you do it?
Yeah, of course, Sreejith. So if you look at our plan also, particularly in Chennai, so we are launching a 78 megawatt facility now in Chennai. So this year, so that is from a 3 megawatt facility what we had earlier, and from there we are launching a 78 megawatt facility. Yeah, so that shows the kind of growth plans what we have for Chennai. And I mean, obviously, that is because we have that kind of requirement which is coming up, or enquiry is coming up. So that makes us to kind of, invest in Chennai for our new data centers. I'm sure that you are also doing same way, because look at the change what happened in Chennai in the last say 3-4 years. The kind of players who has come to Chennai. So earlier it was all concentrated in Mumbai, right? But now if you look at, you can see the kind of data centers coming up in Chennai, particularly because of the kind of infrastructure what the government has created here. Take it power or transportation or telecom things and land availability. I mean, all these are kind of making it a very favorable, place to invest on data centers. And that is what is our plan is. We are launching a brand new facility here, and that should be going live this year.
Okay, thanks. Let me take a pause and go back to the audience. So I'll come back to you based on the questions we get it from the audience. Yeah, there's a first hand raised. Can you get me a mic, please?
My name is Ganga Prasad. I represent Grundfos. While we talk about the growth of data centers, and we also talk about AI and ML, quantum computing, now we are seeing a shift from CPUs to GPUs. Okay, because the quantum of data that is being crunched, okay, I mean, it's enormous. Now, this means GPUs are to be available freely. But today we see that there is a rationing happening from NVIDIA. This is what I understand. Yeah. So that being the case, how is your growth going to get impacted because of this supply chain on account of GPUs?
To speak to anybody, or anybody can answer?
Anybody can answer.
Oh, okay. Sir, you want to answer?
So that's one thing even we witnessed during, that's a very good question. This question emerges, I think, post-corona, where post-COVID we had this supply chain disruptions happening, chip shortages, and there is a announced period of delays for delivering the required data chips, right? So obviously, this has been factored in. Some of the projects, big projects, which has to go live at the time, got delayed because of these reasons. But moving on, that has been taken into notice. But what to do? We actually relied on one of the specific geo who are the leaders in producing those kind of semiconductors at that time. Now more and more innovation is happening from each of the participant countries also. In India also, what I hear is we are coming up with some semiconductor setup, right? So, so it's going to take time. It's not going to quickly solve that problem if it happens again, but some kind of resiliency is getting built on. But proactively planning, per se, from an IBM per se, what I can see is that's happening in the quantum space. We actually estimate for the next 3 years where how much the requirements will be, and start targeting towards that in provisioning those environments. So similarly, everyone will have some strategy to other two. I will pass it on.
Just to add to that, so we face the same problem, not only for the chips or the CPUs. We face the same problem for even other components also. A simple generator was not able to deliver because it doesn't have that silicon for the chips inside. But I think it lasted maybe for an year or in 18 months. And after that, you would see that the industry has immediately geared up to to bridge that gap. That's what we are seeing now. So now, what we had 2 years back, the supply issues, I think that is not there now. So, I mean, all the manufacturers has geared up to meet this requirement. I would say COVID was a lesson, and then the industry has immediately geared up to meet this requirement. So I'm sure that even the GPU, yes, definitely there is a short supply now. I'm sure that in the coming, when they see the a growth and the demand, I'm sure that that will be bridged.
Yeah, that's right. And another part of it, it is going to be delayed, or that part of it. So while you catch up, while the others catch up, you put your business plan in such a way, plan it early, right? So that's how you can do it.
And we get that time to build our data centers.
That's correct. Other questions?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Balakrishnan from L&T. Yeah, my question to you people, both of you can answer it. So AI and ML, yes, it's catching up, but at the same time, it requires a lot of data to be transferred when you do this. But presently, I mean, this is my personal opinion, you can correct me, the network speeds and the streaming buffering is not the best in the world. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, in India.
You're right.
So how are you going to address already existing infrastructure, and when you do AI/ML, how is it going to be addressed?
Roopesh, you can answer. Yeah. The question of what we understand correctly is that the kind of huge shift is happening because of the AI/ML. How are you coping up with the network infrastructure, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say that it has two parts to that. One is the internal network and the external networks. So the internal networks, I'm sure that you are aware of the InfiniBeam a technologies which NVIDIA is using to the inter-rack or inter-server of a communication. That evolved a lot, and what we used to talk about a copper transfer speed few years back, and now on the InfiniBeam is far away. It's unimaginable actually, the growth it has happened. So from a computing point of view, when you have your actual processing and the related computing and the data transfer, I think it is getting matured, and I mean it's already matured, and then definitely it is going through changes. So on both copper and fiber, that's what we could see that. And from outside thing also. So that is also now with the new optical technologies and the fiber network what we have, is definitely getting improved. So if you look at the telecom infrastructure, what you would have seen few years back in India and now what we have in India is far ahead, right? And other example, look at your Chennai story. The cable landing stations, what we had few years back and now, and what is coming up in the pipeline is almost double or triple of that. So that definitely enables the communication even intercontinent or in inter-country things. So I'm sure that in the network part is definitely taken care, and it's very simple. Without a network, there's no point in having data centers, right? So it has to definitely communicate with each other and to the users also. So definitely that is happening. That's my point. I'm sure Sundar, you want to add something on that?
I agree to Roopesh. Additionally, I want to add certain things. Typically, if I am getting your question, is it more about remotest edge, talking to the cloud for the ingestion?
Yes,
yeah, got you. So that's exactly what is happening with energy utilities think of a windmill which are say thousands of kilometers apart from the data center, but it runs critical mechanics which has to be throttled on need basis. Some intervention has to happen. That's where AI on the box itself is happening. Edge AI we used to call. So it's not that AI means we have to run in a big server kind of an environment. We take certain portions of AI which can be doable. One example is this kind of remote endpoints. Though you have connectivity, there may be latency, so you cannot push all the data. So in those cases or remote edge cases kind of a scenario, we do certain level of edge. Another example is the drone. What generally you see with the defense and other, even civilian use also, we heard that drone are going to come. If you see the drone, how to do a coordinated civilian activity or a defense activity, there is a AI, there is a close collaboration with NVIDIA also happened, and it's a GPU on a box kind of. So the drone has a capability to do the low level AI, and whatever the higher level large language models has to get involved, those data are only pushed to this. So some AI decisions which has to be taken on the field at a quicker pace are happening on the box itself now. Yeah.
I think that's a good question, because network is going to be the real contributor. But again, I'm sure, because my experience is that I get 500 Mbps at home. It is mostly uninterrupted, right? I'm sure all of you, right? The kind of investment is getting done by all the network service providers is huge. Any more questions? Because this.
Hello.
Yeah, I think the last question we'll take it, right?
Hello, hello. So I'm
Yeah, one more
Satish
question.
from a company called Nile Technology. We deal with Gen AI services. So the question is with respect to security measures. So what are the things, can you highlight some of the security measures that has been taken care in terms of handling all these LLMs that are coming into the market?
Okay, you mean to say I think we missed one of our speakers is the GM for Indian Bank, because we wanted to have this question to him, because I think you look at it 10 years back when the cloud computing came in. This was the first question. Even today, the first question we typically hear from any of the BFSI customers, right? So security part of it. But I think it's addressed. Maybe you want to add quickly to that in 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds, right? So sorry. Okay, so the quicker answer is we are much more secured comparatively where we were a decade ago. This includes the edge computing, which are going to sit thousands of miles apart. You are sitting in a data center and it's going to pump the data. How secure it is? But the use cases, what we are seeing, it's highly secured. And any proactive leaks are also getting detected. Those kind of tools are also very relevant nowadays. And whether it is containerized or sitting on VMs, kind of security across the network is getting sorted.
Not only logical side of it, we also take care of the physical side of it, right? So the security, we talk about physical security plus the logical securities, and a lot of technologies are there. The rest assured it is in a good hands, so don't worry about it.
Okay,
so then next questions, we can sorry.
Hello, I have a question, sir.
Yeah, please.
Here it is. So this side.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm Vivek here. So I thank Roopesh because I'm an ex-employee of Sify 20 years before when Raju Akeshana bought Sify. Okay. So my question is, 10 years before, there was a major chunk happened in the network part. That is, one of the underground sea cable was destructed by a ship, and that is via Cochin. Another route was via Bay of Bengal. So it took 1 week to stabilize the entire network because of the bandwidth. So all the entire system in India was very slow. I know that. So I was handling that part that time. So what is the company is doing right now to ensure that there is a redundancy somewhere? Suppose if some third world war happens, they destroy both the networks. How we can save our data? How we can communicate with others?
Last question, don't worry.
Yeah, it's a bit hypothetical, but still I will answer that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, the 10 years back, if you are closely observing the CLS in India,
Yep.
10 years back, the kind of cable what we had, maybe predominantly CMV 2 and CMV 3, right? And then we had a bit of GBI and other things. Or yeah, then later they added I2I. Now we have CME 4, CME 5, and there are new more, cable landing stations are getting added. So whether you connect to the West Coast, East Coast, or to Middle East or Singapore, now definitely there are multiple submarine cable systems are available in India, which is landing in many parts of in India. So mainly in Mumbai and Chennai, and you will you will very, I mean Cochin is another one which was there. Cochin is a very old system though, but you will see few more cables are getting added. Cable systems are getting added in this cost, in this coming years. So from a redundancy point of view, I'm sure that these are taken care. I don't think so. Recently, you would have heard, even there was recently also there was a fiber cut. I don't think so. You would have experienced any kind of, response issues during that time. So there are sufficient redundancies are now available and connecting to multiple countries. Okay, the landing on the other side, it has diverse locations now. So if you look at towards the Middle East, you have, you have Fujairah, you have, Djibouti and many other places actually. And same thing on the other side also. You have towards the east side, you have Singapore, Malaysia, and then far away also, there are many cable systems are available. I would say that this may be a 10-year backstory.
Okay.
But yeah.
The technology or the fiber infrastructure, the quality of fiber itself changed, because I was one of the project managers for a cable landing station. The kind of cable earlier, the cable should get cut by a shark. Shark cutting was a major issue earlier on. Then the ship impacting the fiber. So those are, nowadays last 5 years you're not hearing it. Even if you're hearing, there's enough redundancy built in all the geographies, rightly Roopesh said. I think the rest of the questions we can take it offline. We are all there in the key tea and coffee and during the lunch. So there is a real, she is behind me for last 10 minutes. So please reserve your questions. We can definitely discuss offline, and we can email to us as well. You have time for one more question? No, okay. So thanks a lot for your wonderful participation, and thanks to the audience for your contribution.